When you think of a medieval queen, you might imagine a woman of grace and elegance, resplendent in fine gowns, enjoying the luxuries of a pristine royal court. However, the reality of royal life during the Middle Ages and the early modern period was far from the sparkling, fragrant ideal often portrayed in art and literature. A new series, The Filth and the Fury, will take viewers into the disturbing world of powerful queens and the disgusting truths about their daily lives. So buckle up and prepare to have your perception of royal life turned upside down as we dive into this topic. Welcome back to the channel. Before we begin, please remember to subscribe and click the notification bell to stay informed about our latest videos. Also, stick around until the end of this video to learn about something truly special that awaits you. The grim reality is that royal life was frequently characterized by extreme filth, disease, and even horrifying beauty rituals. The truth is that while royalty enjoyed certain privileges, they were not exempt from the harsh realities of their time, including rampant disease and bad hygiene. In fact, they often lived in an environment that was more dirty and dangerous than that of the common folk. This is because the lack of basic understanding about hygiene and the spread of disease was widespread across all levels of society, and it was until the 19th century that major advancements in science and technology began to improve public health. One particularly gruesome example is the case of Queen Isabella of Castile, wife of Edward II and mother of Edward III. When she arrived in England in 1305, she had gone 8 months without bathing. She justified her lack of hygiene by claiming that since Christ himself had not bathed, neither should she. But there's more. The queen apparently saw her own filth as a sign of piety, even sprinkling holy water over her rotting flesh to bless it. To make matters worse, she refused to wash her clothes or change her undergarments, which became so foul that servants had to be rotated off duty due to the unbearable stench. Even Queen Elizabeth, the first monarch of England's Tudor dynasty, was known for her filthy habits. Despite having access to the finest perfumes and cosmetics, she preferred to smell sweet by covering herself in a paste made of sugar and wheat flour. This unusual beauty secret likely stemmed from her false belief that sugar could combat the unpleasant odor of stale sweat and urine, which she liberally applied to her underarms. Her obsession with smelling good ultimately made her reek even more. But perhaps the most shocking aspect of medieval and early modern royal life is the little regard paid to basic hygiene and sanitation. While we may find it difficult to comprehend today, the standards of cleanliness were much lower in those times. Servants and peasants were often cleaner than queens, who would regularly go days, weeks, or even months without bathing. And it wasn't just the queens who suffered from these unsanitary conditions. Kings and other members of the nobility were equally affected. One of the main reasons for this lack of hygiene was the belief that bathing washed away the protective oils on the skin, leaving individuals vulnerable to illness and disease. Additionally, there was a misguided notion that sweat could cure illnesses like consumption, which claimed many lives, especially among the upper classes. As a result, people avoided bathing not only because it was inconvenient, but also out of fear that it would worsen their health. Another disgusting aspect of royal life was the prevalence of parasites like lice and fleas. These pesky insects were considered a nuisance, but were rarely seen as a serious health hazard. In fact, some people believed that lice were a blessing from God, and that having them in one's hair was a sign of holiness. Queen Isabella of Castile was known for having so many lice that she even had to have her burial garments deloused before they could be sealed in her coffin. But these vermin were not just a sign of piety, they were also a constant source of irritation and disease. Queens and other members of the nobility would spend hours each day removing lice from their hair, only to have them return shortly after. This was not just a tedious chore, but a necessary evil, if they wanted to avoid the painful and debilitating diseases that lice could transmit. Despite the inconvenience and health risks, parasites were simply a fact of life in medieval and early modern Europe. Queens and other members of the nobility did their best to deal with them, but ultimately they were powerless against these relentless little creatures. The 1500s saw a growing obsession with sugar, which was only available to the elite. This trend led to severe dental decay among royalty. Queen Elizabeth, the first monarch of England's Tudor dynasty, was infamous for her blackened teeth. Despite her royal status, she could unafford basic dental care, and her teeth were in such poor condition that she had to extract several of them. This was a common problem among royalty who indulged in sugary treats without proper dental hygiene. The price of sugar at the time was so high that it became a symbol of wealth and power. Sugar plantations were established in the New World, and European monarchs were eager to get their hands on the precious commodity. However, this addiction came at a cost, both literally and figuratively. Royalty who couldn't afford dental care suffered from terrible dental decay, which became a grotesque fashion statement among courtiers. They would paint or blacken their teeth to match the queen's. This trend highlights the irony of the situation. Those who could afford sugar and sweets couldn't afford dental care, leading to severe dental problems that became a status symbol. Menstrual hygiene was non-existent in medieval and early modern Europe, and reusable cloth rags were commonly used instead of modern sanitary products. These rags were washed in stale urine, which contained ammonia, and was used as a detergent. This practice resulted in unbearable odors in royal courts, as well as the growth of bacteria and disease. Bathing during menstruation was also discouraged, adding to the filth and discomfort. Despite the availability of fresh water, royal women were encouraged to believe that bathing during their period would wash away their virtue. This belief system created a culture of shame and secrecy surrounding menstruation, as well as a lack of basic hygiene and sanitation. The combination of these factors resulted in a miserable experience for women during their menstrual cycles. And it was until the 19th century that sanitary products and better hygiene practices became more widely available. Medical treatments during this time were often more harmful than helpful, and some treatments were downright disgusting. For example, some doctors believed that rubbing bird droppings on the skin could cure various ailments, while others recommended sitting over burning goat dung to stimulate fertility. These treatments were not only ineffective, but also unsanitary and dangerous. Childbirth was another risky and filthy event. Unwashed hands and instruments used in deliveries often led to infection and death. Queen Jane Seymour, the third wife of Henry VIII and mother of his son, King Edward VI, died of infection after giving birth to the heir apparent in 1537. Her death highlights the dangers of unhygienic medical practices and the lack of understanding of basic sanitation and disease transmission in the royal court. During the 1600s, the use of mercury to treat syphilis, a sexually transmitted disease that was common among royalty, became widespread. However, this supposed cure was ironic because mercury was more damaging to the body than the disease itself. The side effects of mercury included tooth loss, hair loss, and even insanity. Despite these negative effects, mercury remained a popular treatment for syphilis until the late 18th century, reflecting the desperation and ignorance of the time. Royal gowns were expensive and rarely cleaned, with some costing more than a peasant's house. To make matters worse, they were sometimes poisoned by jealous rivals or concerned family members. Arsenic and mercury were common choices for assassination attempts, as they could be easily concealed in food or drink. Queen Elizabeth I, who reigned over England and Ireland for 44 years, was famous for her elaborate gowns. However, her dressers had to test the garments for toxicity before she could wear them. This was a necessary precaution as poisoning was a common method of assassinating royalty, and Queen Elizabeth I had many enemies. The dressers who tested the garments for poison were known as dress testers, and they played a crucial role in ensuring the queen's safety. If the dress tester fell ill or died after wearing the gown, it was clear that the garment had been poisoned and the queen would have to choose another one. This process was repeated for every new gown that the queen received, which was often in addition to the threat of poisoning. Royal gowns were also susceptible to other forms of contamination. Blood, dirt, and other substances could easily ruin a gown, making it unfit to be worn. The value of the gowns, some of which cost more than a peasant's house, added to the importance of keeping them clean and free from damage. The use of dress testers to check for poison and other contaminants was a testament to the lengths to which royalty had to go to ensure their safety and well-being. While most queens sought to cover up their filth and stench, there were some holy women who embraced it as a form of devotion. These women believed that embracing dirt and filth brought them closer to God, and they took this belief to the extreme. On the other end of the spectrum was the infamous blood countess, who bathed in the blood of young girls. This gruesome practice was said to have been motivated by a desire to maintain her youth and beauty, and she was rumored to have dipped her bread in blood instead of wine. Both of these examples, the holy women and the blood countess, highlight the extremes to which people will go to achieve their goals. Overall, the reality of royal life in medieval and early modern Europe was far from the glamorous and sophisticated existence portrayed in fiction and legend. Queens and other members of the nobility were not immune to the filth, disease, and danger that plagued the rest of society. They, too, had to contend with parasites, bad hygiene, and disgusting medical treatments. While they may have enjoyed certain privileges, royal life was not without its drawbacks. The stories of Queen Isabella of Castile and Queen Elizabeth I are just two examples of the many accounts that reveal the often grim and unhygienic reality of medieval and early modern royalty. From the stench of stale urine and waste to the threat of poisonous gowns and the reality of childbirth, these tales shed light on a side of history that is rarely discussed. So do you find these royal habits and lifestyle intriguing, or maybe a little bit gross? Let us know in the comments below. We hope you've enjoyed learning about the filthy secrets of medieval and early modern royal life. If you want to watch more videos like this, don't forget to subscribe and leave a comment. Your feedback helps us create more engaging content for you. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.